Hi, this is Yisachar Wortel, and this is the beginning of 5781. This is Sukkot, and leading up to Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah, which is going to definitely be different this year. Um, but let me share some thoughts and maybe tie it into the reality, which this crazy reality that we're dealing with. Um, so basically, at the end of the Torah, we have the words Le'enei Kol Yisrael, with the last letter being Lamed, and wraps into the first word of the Torah, which we then start over again with Bereshit, and that's the letter Bet, which spells the word Lev. Um, there are numerous commentaries that talk about that, and there's the purpose of continuity. It's something that I've spoken about before, but it shows you that it's important to have a heart moving forward. It has to do with passion, that we're going from one stage to the next. As I've mentioned before, and many other rabbis have spoken about, uh, everything goes around and around, but it's not an ellipse, it's not a circle, it's a spiral. And the goal is to move one level up, or one level inward, one level further each year. That's why it's called Shana. Now it could be from Shona, like Shona meaning a second, from Sheni, but it could also be Shona meaning to change, right? And that's part of what we do on Rosh Hashanah. We make, quote unquote New Year's resolutions. Obviously, very different than regular New Year's resolutions. We pray Avinu Malkeinu, and we do Sarah Tshuva, and obviously there's a whole process going through it with Teshuva and everything like that. We really try to transform ourselves and really work on ourselves for the upcoming year, and just really start fresh and really make you know better on our promises that we tried to make last year, and new initiatives as well. We know we're not going to be perfect, and sometimes very far from it, but the goal is to keep moving forward. And that's what we see going from Lamed Bet. We got to Lev. As I've mentioned previously, if you were to just read the Torah from beginning to end, then you have Bereshit going to Eleinei Kol Yisrael, and then you have a Bet, then a Lamed, and Bet Lamed means Baal, which means without or lacking or meaningless, right? If you just look at from beginning to end without looking at what you're going to do the next level and the next level and the next level and how you're going to move forward, then that's almost meaningless, right? I mean, obviously it's not nothing, right? But like the goal is to strive and to keep moving forward, not to just be within one level, one stratus, one quota period that you're just like, okay, I'm going from here to here. That's it. I'm done. I did my work. I don't have any more to do. No, you got to strive, go to the next level, right? You got to wave, and you got to put your heart into it, right? So we also have a couple other cycles. I had, I think it was Rabbi Mashiach Galati who said this, but I may be mistaken. Uh, that, and I've heard similar things, that there are two cycles that are ending at the end of Sukkot, meaning specifically on Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. We have the Shalosh Regalim, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, or some people say Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. And then we also have this whole process of Elul and Tishrei, and going into Sukkot and culminating ultimately in Shmini Atzeret slash Simchat Torah, which in Israel is one day and here is 2 days. Um, Now, as I believe I think it was actually in my Tisha B'Av video that I mentioned this, and a couple times in some of my written dvars. Um, the 22 days from Rosh Hashanah to Shemini Atzeret, which is also Simchas Torah, effectively, corresponds to the 22 letters of the Aleph Beis. I believe the Zohar or some other mystical Sfarim speak about that concept. Um, and we're going from Aleph to Tav. And it's actually kind of been a roller coaster from all the way kind of through Av and Elul and really throughout the entire year. And we're kind of like reaching a peak, and the peak on some level was reached on Yom Kippur, but to be able to sustain that creates an even greater peak, and that's part of the beauty of Sukkot. And part of what's so important about Shmini Atzeret, why it's a chag unto itself, even though it's connected to Sukkot, but it's a chag into itself, has to do with the concept of eight, which is the concept of the supernal, right? That means going above and beyond. We see this most prominently to people's knowledge by Hanukkah, which has to do with the number 8, which is going above 7. 7 represents nature, the cycles of nature, different cycles that we have in our everyday lives, days of the week, rainbow, etc. Eight is going above and beyond. That's what the letter Chet also symbolizes. Um, and so Shemini Atzeret, we're going above and beyond. We've reached a spiritual plateau on Yom Kippur, hopefully. And now we're trying to combine that with physicality to be able to imbue that spirituality which we achieved through the Seret Yemei Tshuva and ultimately culminated in Yom Kippur, and imbue that into the physical aspects of eating and drinking and the sukkah, sleeping, everything in our mundane lives, to infuse it with some level of spirituality while still retaining some level of, we'll call it higher kedusha, before going completely back to normalcy. And we have one day which is very specific, and again, there's so many things I could speak about that the rabbis speak about, that the other 7 days of Sukkot, that it's both for us and for the rest of the world, but the Shemini Atzeret is just for us. That's a whole topic in its own right. But there is something just absolutely special about Shemini Atzeret. We're going above and beyond what we think we're capable of. We set limits. We set our goals on Rosh Hashanah. We try and cleanse ourselves on Yom Kippur. We try and rationalize how we're going to incorporate the spirituality into our physicality, and vice versa, and how we're going to make things mesh and how we're going to make things work, and we overthink things. And sometimes we just need to say, like, you know what? I can do it. I'm not going to necessarily worry about how it's logical. I mean, obviously, you can't just like jump off a building and fly, and you can't just go from, 0 to 60 without, whether it's, learning or a job or something else. Like, you can't be completely unrealistic. But like within some level of seichel, within some level of reasoning, you can just say, even if it doesn't fully make sense, you can have the amuna, you can have the faith, and say, I'm going to do it. I'm not exactly sure how. I'm going to have siyata d'shmaya. Hashem is going to help me. I believe in Hashem. I believe in others who can also help me if I have, hopefully friends and family who love me. But ultimately, I believe in Hashem. I believe in myself, that we can do this, that it's going to happen, and I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to go above and beyond. There may be physical limitations, but with Hashem's help, it's possible. And that's part of what Shemini Atzeret really represents. And we also see this by the concept of Simchat Torah, even though that was a later quasi-Kabbalistic invention. I don't call it an invention, it's not really the right word, but concept, which, again, kind of has some tracings back to Shimon Bar Yochai, I believe. I need to look into that a little bit more. But basically, I believe the Arizal was the one who helped institute Simchat Torah, but I apologize if I got that incorrect. There is a notion about, in order to move forward to the next level, which I was speaking about, going up in the spiral, going inward in the spiral, however you want to look at it, you need to take a little bit of a leap of faith to get out of that orbit and get into another one. Again, whether upwards, inward, however you're looking at it, you have to take a little bit of a leap of faith. You have to say, I can do it, right? So when we go on Simchat Torah and we say, I can go through the whole Torah again, and I can go through it better this time. I can go through it deeper. I can find things that I didn't see before. I can achieve things I didn't achieve before. I can learn things. I can understand things. I can incorporate things from the Torah into my life that I didn't have before. Then I'm able to make this leap, even if it's a very, very small jump. But it's beyond your normalcy. It's beyond your complacency, what you've been comfortable with the past year, and you move into slightly uncharted territory, and you growth, and you move forward, and you have that lave. You have that ability, that heartfelt desire to move forward, and your heart is connected with ahava to Hashem. You're not just acting out of yira, which is a base level. I mean, obviously, there's two levels of yira. We're not getting into the greater level of yira, but even the greater level of yira requires ahava. You have to have ahavas Hashem. And that's something that a lot of people are missing. You need to have both, obviously, Yira and Ahava. And Yira is often a prerequisite to have Ahava, and that's also by far a whole topic in its own right? Just for clarification purposes, anybody who's not familiar, Yira means fear, which could mean more of like a base fear of punishment, or the higher level, which is more of a sense of awe. And Ahava means love, but it's like a deep, compassionate, understanding love, not just like, I love what he does for me. It's a lot more deep than that, right? When you realize that Hashem is your Father and He can do anything for you, He can make anything happen, right? We have to put forth the initiative. So there are many sources that talk about that, like, we put forth an inch and he'll make it a foot, a mile, a yard, 15,000 kilometers, whatever it is. We just go a little bit. Hashem will help us get there the rest of the way. And even if it doesn't work once, it doesn't work twice, sometimes Hashem wants to see us persevere. And that's not always easy. We're now living in a very strange world, which we don't have much of a precedent for. Maybe if you are, you have the amazing bracha of being like 105 and 110 and you were alive in 1918 and you have some recollection of it, then okay, fine. But for the 99.99999% of the rest of us and more, this is completely uncharted territory. I mean, it's very different than a war. It's almost like a psychological war in a certain sense. So obviously on some level, we definitely don't have rights to complain because it obviously could be much worse. But part of the problem is the uncertainty. Things are constantly changing. We don't know how to live our normal lives. We're not sure. Do we go inside? Do we go outside? How much do we have to worry about this? How much do we not? Can we be flexible? Do we have to be overprotective? It's really crazy. Not to mention everything else that's happened in 2020, which I'm not getting into in any respect. But with that uncertainty is a greater sense that we have to put our faith in Hashem. And obviously it may sound like a broken record. It may seem a little vanilla if it's something you've heard a bunch of times or maybe even don't believe, which is unfortunate, but understandable. We also have to believe in one another. There's unfortunately been a big growing amount of disunity, and it's the exact opposite of what we need. To heal things, to heal ourselves, to heal the world, we need a lot more unity, and unfortunately it keeps going in the wrong direction. And part of having that unity is taking a little bit outside yourself and putting some things in Hashem's hands. Part of it is working on anger. Part of it is working on ego. Part of it is understanding the other side. And again, that's also a topic in its own right. But when we look at the concept of, this is also something that I've spoken about, the concept of 8 can also be divided into, I'm just going back a little bit, so hopefully you didn't just chime into this video right now. The letter chet, or 8, can also be divided in a certain sense into aleph and zayin, which correspond to 1 and 7, right? We see that in the word az, then. Then what, right? 1 and 7 is 8. So 7, as I said, represents a natural, normal cycle, a complete cycle. Also corresponds to the lower sphere, which I'm not getting into right now. If you don't know what those are, maybe I'll explain it another time. And then you have the 1, which is the aleph. Now that 1 often refers to Hashem, right? That Hashem is the one who makes the 7 happen, right? That everything that which we see as nature is really Hashem. Hashem's controlling everything, and therefore he can manipulate things, but you can also see it in a way that if everything's from Hashem, then it's beyond nature. The aleph is added to the zayin, and it becomes a chet, it becomes 8. The 7 plus 1 becomes 8, and you can go above. However, that aleph can also be you. It can also be me, right? We can go above what would seemingly be natural or normal, right? Even if it's only to a small extent. Obviously, everybody has their own talents, capabilities, as well as restrictions and restraints. But focusing on that, actually, I could give a plug for it, but I don't have the book in front of me right now. But my sister actually recently put out a book called The Secrets and Laws of Attraction. Not getting into that concept, but it is a fascinating notion, and just the ability to believe in yourself and to believe that things can happen and to emanate positive energy in the realm of thought, in the realm of love, and even certainly in the realm of action. All of these things bring positivity to the world, which of course can help heal people in a certain sense and heal the world. But it also makes people happy, and that's not that's not too insignificant. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who are unfortunately depressed, whether it's because of COVID or circumstances, whether it be financial, family, something else entirely. I mean, depression unfortunately has already been on the rise for a long time, well before 2020. Which is also a topic in of its own right, which never run out of things to talk about. But I don't know. Obviously, this can go in so many different directions, and we're unfortunately going to be in a very different boat this year than we would normally be. Normally, Simchat Torah, we all get together. We've had 7 days of sitting in the sukkah with our friends, our families, and it's been amazing. This year, hopefully you had an opportunity to spend at least some time with your family or a couple friends, but we certainly didn't have quite the guest menu that we normally do. And Simchat Torah is going to be strange. I don't even know how it's going to play out. I'll find out when I watch this video again in a few days. But basically, like, we're normally singing hand in hand, we're dancing in circles, and I mean, it gets crowded and it's amazing, and people dancing in the street, people dancing in the shul, people passing the Torah back and forth. A lot of that's just not going to exist this year. But it doesn't mean you can't have the simcha. You absolutely can have the simcha. Sukkot or Sukkot is a time of simcha. And Shemini Atzeret / Simchat Torah is an extension, in a sense, a build upon of that simcha. And if you utilize it properly, it's an even greater simcha, because it's a pure delight. It's just simply delighting in the Torah, in Hashem, in everything positive that you do have in your life. And I wish everybody to please, on Simchat Torah, if you can't have anything close to a normal Simchat Torah, which most of you can't, and you may be limited and you're feeling lacking, focus on what you do have. Some of us have had a good year financially. Some of us are fortunate to have both parents. Some of us have amazing children. Some of us have a really nice house. Some of us, have a lot of friends. Some of us have really cool talents. Maybe we wrote a song, we wrote a book, we created a marketing tool or some other like IT initiative. Maybe we made a research breakthrough. Maybe we helped somebody else make a breakthrough or something like that. We have so many things to be able. Maybe I was healthy this year. Maybe you were healthy this year. Like, maybe there's so many things we take for granted, and that's one of the things that I really, really hope. I mean, obviously, I pray that this machla, this plague, whatever you want to call it, is over extremely soon. And just as Hashem brought it quickly, He can take it away. But one thing we have to take away from it is all the things we took for granted before. And among the biggest things are twofold, for the most part: the blessings that we have from God, and our friends and families and loved ones. And just, you know what I mean, as amazing as Zoom is and amazing the technology we have, and we've uncovered some amazing tools that we didn't necessarily know we had before, but it doesn't replace genuine human interaction, and that happens predominantly in person. We miss that. We're getting a little bit of it, but now maybe it's a little bit of a spike, and we got to get back indoors a little bit, and it's scary, and you could be unsure of yourself, right? But got to keep moving forward. If you don't move forward, you're going to end up on that same circle, back on that same track. You got to make that leap of faith a little bit. Get on that next track. Go up a level, just a little bit beyond your comfort zone, a little bit past that Zion, into that Aleph. Trust in yourself and trust in Hashem, trust in God. And you can do it. I can do it, you can do it, we all can do it. We have it in us. We are human beings. We are made b'tselem Elokim, in the image of God. And that means we're not limited by practically any means, especially when we have divine assistance. So I'm asking you all to please think about what you're grateful for, and think about what you may have taken for granted before, and what we can do moving forward to make our world better, make ourselves better, make our relationships better. And I bless you all to have an amazing Shemini Atzeret, Simchat Torah, and only goodness and health in the coming year.